Hey guys, I wanted to make a quick video discussing some things about the Petzl Gree Plus. I've seen quite a bit of talk and comparison on some of the forums between the Madrock and the Gree Plus. I don't have a lot of experience with the Madrock. I've done some climbing on it, and I've done a little bit of comparison with the two, and I lean towards the Gree Plus. I'm a fan of it. There's a couple features that it has that the Madrock doesn't have. Some of the benefits of the Madrock is it's physically a little bit smaller, and it costs less. And it's also, I think, right out of the box, it can tend to be a little bit quieter. But none of those things are a deal breaker as far as I'm concerned with the Gree Plus. And I'll show you how I set mine up where it's perfectly silent and some of the things I like about it. For starters, some of the features that the Gree Plus has that the Madrock doesn't have, and it's important, there's a distinction between the Gree and the Gree Plus because they're two different devices. The Gree Plus has on the device, let me see if you can see it here, on the back side of the device you'll see it has a dial, and that dial is, there's two different modes that you can set this device up for. Keep in mind these belay devices, they were originally intended for rock climbing. So as a rock climber, depending on how you're doing it, a lot of the times the person's climbing up above the device, and they may have the device down on a person that's on the ground. So there's lead climb mode, and in that mode the rope will pass through the device easier, and it still catches you and works either way for the application that we use. But I find that you kind of lose a little bit of ground in the lead climb mode. It doesn't grab as quickly. It's not as efficient. And it's also a little bit noisier in that mode. And I think a lot of people don't realize that with this device, that those settings, if you put it in top rope mode, I find it to be a little bit quieter and it's a more efficient climb. So if you have this device, try that. Set that to the top rope mode, and I think you'll find it more efficient. It's a little tricky to change the setting because there's a little button in here in the mode selector switch. You have to depress that to be able to move it so it doesn't change on its own. So little tricky to make that change, but once it's done, it's pretty cool the way it works in top rope mode. Another thing with this device is some people, when they compare the two between the Gree Plus and the Madrock, they feel that the Gree tends to be a little bit more noisy when you're actually climbing with it. And the reason for that is when you place weight into this device, it will open up and it'll catch. And then as you take pressure off when you climb, like if you're SRT climbing, or if you're using it for single stick climbing, when you step up and take pressure off of it, this contact point will close. So this metal contact point right here is where that noise will come from, because that little metal contact point, it will touch and it'll make a click. And there's two things you can do about that. Either you can do nothing to the device and just ease off of that. So if you learn how to be smooth and fluid and just don't let it slam close, but ease it so that it closes, there won't be a click. That's what I was doing for a long time. But another real quick, easy fix is take a little tiny piece of stealth strip. And if you take a little tiny piece of stealth strip and just put it right there on that contact point, then when it closes, it's going to be hitting, instead of metal to metal, you're going to have that stealth strip in between the two pieces of metal, and it will deaden any noise. So that works good. It's a real simple fix. It doesn't impact the way the device works, and that's what I'm doing. You can decide for yourself if it's something you want to do, or you could just, probably the best thing is to learn how to do it nice and smooth. But either way, it can be done quietly. So another factor, or a feature I should say, with the Gree Plus, and again, this is just with the Gree Plus, not with the normal Gree. It has a panic feature built into it. And what happens is these devices, when you're climbing, or I should say when you're rappelling down and want to come down your rope, you're going to take this brake release and you're going to pull on it. And as you pull on that, it's going to release the brake and you're going to be able to start to rappel out of the tree. Now, this rappel device, it's basically a brake release. So if I start descending too quickly, what I'm going to want to do is let it go so that it grabs. But a lot of new climbers, if they start to panic and feel like they're starting to fall or go too quickly, they'll pull it the wrong way. And this device, the GriGri Plus, has a panic feature that if you actually went the wrong way, it will actually lock up and catch you. So on either end of the spectrum, if I go too far this way, it's going to break. If I let it go, it's going to break. So either end of the spectrum, it's only in the middle range that I'm going to be able to rappel down and control my descent. So that's a really cool feature with this, because for new climbers, I just find it's a safety feature and it makes the device safer than the MadRock. I don't believe that the MadRock has that feature. I've never heard of it say that. So, and I'm no expert on the MadRock, and I'm not knocking it at all. I know it's a very popular device, and if guys want to use them, by all means. I'm just saying, why I'm selecting the GriGri Plus and what I like about it. I can kind of show you how this panic feature works. If I were to take this, now this is something I try to really emphasize with a lot of people, because I see a lot of guys that are single stick climbing. They're up in a tree and they'll let go of this line. These devices are not intended to be used without controlling this end of the line at all times. So there's different ways you can do that. You can set up like an auto block or something, but if you want to really use this thing properly, you want to control this end at all times. Or what I do is I'll climb up. Once I get to hunting height, I'll install a friction hitch of some type and catch that, and I'm actually not, just completely relying on this device or a MadRock, because really you want to hang on to that. But the cool thing about your GriGri Plus is if I were to try to descend and I were to go too fast and pull this thing all the way down, it's going to catch me. The MadRock wouldn't do that. If you were sitting into a MadRock, you pulled that thing all the way the other way, you're going to go down. And I do know of a story of one of our viewers was telling me a story about that happened to him. He was utilizing a MadRock with a JX3 saddle, and I think it was fortunate for him that he was using the JX3, because he was new to climbing and he was single stick climbing, I believe. And when he went to rappel out of the tree, he started to descend too quickly, and he did just that. He panicked and pulled on that brake release rather than releasing it. And it just made him come down even faster. And he came down about 15 feet and landed on his back. But he was in a JX3, so that gave him more cushion than some of these other more minimalist saddles. And fortunately, he wasn't injured. So, there's a lesson there. Two of the lessons that from his experiences, had he been controlling the other end of this rope, he could have just grabbed that with his hand. That would have slowed him down, and you should be able to hold yourself even just by controlling this end of the rope. So that was lesson number one. Lesson number two is if you're a new climber or you want to buy this for a new climber, just by having the GriGri Plus, you would have had that safety feature built into it, and it might have avoided that for him. So that's a nice feature in it. So I'm real fond of it. I really like it a lot. I've been using it a couple of years. I've had no issues with it. I like to run Teufelberger Platinum 10.5 millimeter rope in it. The GriGri rope spec is 8.5 to 11 millimeter. However, I'll have you do your own research on this, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the MadRock has a wider rope spec. You can go down to 8 millimeter, but with both the GriGri and the MadRock, the recommendation is to use 9 millimeter plus, when actually climbing, and you can go with a smaller rope if you're just rappelling. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. I'm assuming that as you're climbing, you're putting more pressure into the device, and they want a thicker rope. I'm really not sure, but since both of them really recommend 9mm plus for climbing, if you're using it for SRT climbing, then the Mad Rock's really not going to give you that benefit of that lower rope spec if you're going to climb. If you're just single stick climbing and you're going to rappel out and you wanted to use something like an Oplux or something, then the Mad Rock is a good choice. But yeah, those are the reasons I tend to prefer the Gree Plus, and I've been really happy with it. You probably will be too if you gave it a try and you tried both. Like I said, I've tried both, and I feel like the Gree Plus is much smoother to control my descent than my experience with the Mad Rock. But anyway, if you guys are interested in the Petzl Gree Plus, one place you can get them from is Westboro Tree Equipment. They do sell them there, and Westboro Tree Equipment gave us a promo code, NYSH promo code. You get a 10% discount, so might be able to get a little bit better deal there than some other places. But so check them out for yourself. See if you can. It's good to compare. Not knocking either one. It's just that the Gree does have a couple of added features, and there's some pros and cons either way. But see what works best for you. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and as always, climb safe.